Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to the Westcliffe Climb. You may have noticed that the view that you're looking at, frankly, is a lot less handsome. Uh, that's right. You're missing the other guy. The full head of hair, packed full of wisdom, is not with us this morning. Had a few things come up that he needed to take care of. And so, our thoughts are with Dr. Paul this morning. So I'm going to lay a few things on you in that case to the very, very best of my ability. Want to share with you some thoughts and insights concerning the video that, of course, I put out this week. And then also want to walk with you through a few maybe interesting insights from the Christmas perspective. We're all getting geared up for Christmas this time of year. You've been playing your Christmas music probably before you could even get out of Thanksgiving. You already had the Christmas jams going. That's how it is in our house. We can't ever start that stuff early enough. My son's already listening to his favorite Christmas movies. If it were up to him, we would be watching the Polar Express literally every month. So I get it. If you're one of those families that you just get amped and pumped, it's a great time of year. We're going to look at the Christmas Story and even put that up and next to some current events that are happening in our world right now as they play out as well. So, want to remind you that if you want to reach out, hit me with some questions. I'll be more than happy to answer and dialogue with you. We love that portion of our time together. So, just some stuff that you can maybe take with you. Number one, just with the video that we put out today, just dealing with love languages. This was something, and I shared this in the video that personally I did not take seriously. I had heard that like it was a thing. Marriage counseling is really should be something that we force people to do a year into their marriage. Okay, because everybody going into their marriage, like no one's thinking, yeah, I really just hope to get divorced in 3 or 4 years, or maybe 20 years, build a life and then destroy it. No one's thinking that. So when you walk people through marriage counseling before they get married, um, you know, they have the best, kind of construction on absolutely everything. And so, I would be no different. I'm getting geared up, having no idea the steam train that is coming down those tracks, called the first 2 years of your marriage. And of course, they're walking us through all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, 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 whatever. We're just gonna live on love. So, what I began to find out though, there was something that was just kind of amiss. It was just kind of off, kind of misfiring in our marriage. And frankly, being so far from home, within 6 months of our marriage, we were quite literally several states away. We left everyone and everything. I started at the seminary. We didn't know anybody. We were dealing with severe and serious financial stress and worries, and that puts a new marriage under a lot of stress and strain if money is tight. And then you're also just taking two sinners and trapping them in a little tiny apartment far from home. Man, it was a lot of dynamics like that to deal with. And as it pertains to this idea of love languages, I just I just didn't get it. And you may be out there going, really? That's a real thing? Yeah, it's a real thing. I went a solid, man, 6 or 7 years just not understanding the heartbeat of my wife. The problem is now if I miss, now I can't say I didn't know better. So I just want to share with you what those are, and walk with you just for a bit here on what that would look like in your marriage. Or right now, even if you're just dating somebody, like get an idea what they're about, and it even has implications for your children as well. And it's simply this: you will see people will show you what their love language is. And the challenge is like rarely do two people that end up being together have the same love language, because then they wouldn't have to think about it, right? Like you have two people that just like love to cuddle. Well, then they're just loving their spouse the way that they want to be loved. And then it would just be second nature and easy. Unfortunately, usually You are paired up with someone who has a very different value, a very different love language. And if you're like, man, I'm trying to figure out what that is. Well, no different in your spouse, same thing with your kids. That's usually how they will love you. And also you'll be existing kind of halfway unfulfilled with the way that they're loving you as well. But usually people will love that other person, and that's kind of the signal, the way that they would love, they try to show their love to you. That's how they want to be loved. Just to kind of give you that little insight, and kids do that as well. No different. And so here it is. One is touch. And I just said it like as a joke, but just like the idea of like two people that want to snuggle up on a couch. Like, you will know. Do you have a kid that always wants to snuggle? They want to get in tight. They want to get in close. I mean, my my son is 5. And on one hand, I want him to stay my little boy forever. That's what I want, like forever, right? And this kid will like turn himself into like half the size, a third of the size of who he actually is. He'll get in real tight. He wants to snuggle like hardcore, like up next to his dad, like or his mom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how's this kid gonna deal with this when he's an adult, right? Like he's just so tiny and snuggle. He just wants to snuggle, 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 snuggle. He loves to be held and grabbed and just grab him like a bear hug. He loves that. Like he just loves it, right? My oldest daughter, right? It's just like, God, I love you, but kind of get away from me. Okay. So it's just like, that's the way he is. I get out of the car, I get a form tackle, right? And he's dangerously tall to hurt me in all the wrong places right now, as tall as he is. So I have to I got to be ready that when I step out of the car, here comes this little middle linebacker running at me. And I gotta flip my brain over as a dad. Like I gotta be ready to hug this dude and get into it with him because he's showing his dad some love, and I gotta love him the same way. So that's one example. Touch. Someone that just wants to sit next to you. They love hugs. They love back rubs. You know, like they love all of that. And you may be hearing me like, oh, I just threw up a little bit in my mouth. I don't like that, right? But there are some people that is it. That's their love language is touch. Touch, touch, touch. That's how they show love. That's how they want to receive love. Next one is words of affirmation. Okay. So this is just people that are just told, like, man, you did a great job. You did a fantastic job. Or, you mean so much to me. You know, you are a beautiful person inside and out. Wow, I just respect you so much. Wow, I love you so much. Wow, you mean so much. Like words of affirmation. And if I were to just I kind of put those two on two different ends of the spectrum. That's why I lined them up that way. You take touch, a person who's touch, a person of words of affirmation. And if they're not locked in on what that looks like, okay, you have the words of affirmation person telling the touch person, "Oh, I love you so much. I love you so much." And that person's still kind of empty. All right? That thank you for telling me. I just want you to like give me a hug. Okay? And meanwhile, the touch person around every corner is hugging the words of affirmation person and they're like, "Thanks for the hug. Um but what do you think of me? You never express what you think of me." So you see what I'm saying? Like that's where these two can be like two ships just passing in the night. One's constantly affirming the one that just wants to be held, and the one that wants to just hold the other person. They're just totally missing each other. They're giving each other what they want, not what the other person needs, right? So words of affirmation. You may have that person in your world. They're constantly complimenting you, and you're just kind of like, It's probably because your love language is not words of affirmation, right? But what you can take from it, if nothing else, that's their love language because they're going to just keep heaping praise on you. Some of this comes down to even just communication. Like some of you at some point have to be like, hey, listen, thank you so much for saying nice stuff. It means a lot to me. Okay. Would it kill you to just give me a hug? So it was like this huge breakthrough after 6 or 7 years of being married. Like I missed it like for years. And I remember my wife telling me like, yeah, I got this gift in this one particular situation, and she's like, I just like it was emotional for her. Like it deeply impacted her. And she had come to the conclusion that, like, for example, gifts, that's another one of the languages, like maybe I shouldn't, maybe that's a weird love language. Maybe that's not acceptable to have a love language of gifts, right? And it, like, for her, it was a whole awakening as to why all these other kind of love languages that, people that would give her a hug or people would express certain things, like, she appreciated it. She knew it was from a good place. It meant a lot to her, but it, like, there was something different about receiving a gift, you see? So communicating, communicating, communicating. So, 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 so important. All right. So next one, we'll get to gifts in just a second. Acts of service. All right. With your kid, with your spouse. Do you have that person in your world that loves to do things for you? Man, the most precious resource we have in this life, most precious commodity we have is our time. And this person, they will stop heaven and earth to help you at any time in any way. So they don't want to just be, hey man, thank you. They give you 3 hours of their life. Yeah, I mean, you can buy them lunch and they'd appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, you can pat them on the back. Good job. You could tell them, I really appreciate it. You know what they really want? They want you at some point to go help them. It will mean the world to them. And if you're like me, selfishly, I don't want to do that. Okay. But like, that's how, for some folks, right? That idea of acts of service. Your child, you may already know which child this is. You go outside and they're that kid just standing in their diaper, right? They're 2.5 feet tall, maybe 2 foot tall, right? And they've got, a rake in their hand, just dragging it all over the place. Matter of fact, they're making a bigger mess than even helping you. Okay. But they just want to help. They want to know what you're doing and how can I help you do it? Well, they're already showing you as a little munchkin, like what is exactly like their love language. Like they're already showing you like acts of service. That's how they want to show it. And of course, next one is gifts. I just talked about that. My wife's is gifts. Didn't get it for the longest time. And I will tell you something. Early on in our marriage, too, I would have said out of ignorance, even if I had known, well, that's off the table, right? Like, shoot, gifts, Louis Vuitton, daddy can't do that. Right? So, what did I have to do? What I would have thought, like, my perception would have been realizing that my wife, it's gifts, is that, oh, like, I can't afford $1,000 shopping sprees. I guess I can't love her, right? The way that she wants to be loved. But she will tell you to this day, money was tight. Money was tight all the time. I'm not saying it's a whole lot better now, but it was really, really bad back in the day. Okay. Trying to get through the seminary. I, what I basically did is I just had like random like stuffed animals, if I remember. And I'm telling you right now, this even tells you I barely remember the story. I bet she could tell you details. And I like put that in like some random candy. And I'm so embarrassed to tell you, I'm not even sure what the deal was. I can't tell you if it was Valentine's Day, was it her birthday or whatever. I'm so embarrassed. Now this is all going to be recorded. Um, but I put it in the car so that when she went to work, it was like surprise, right? It was in the trunk. Like I just kind of did like all that, Elf on the shelf, only with stuffed animals. She will tell you how much that meant to her. It like melted her heart. And I'm thinking, man, I only got 22 bucks to spend on this deal. How can I just make this remotely interesting? And she will tell you that like that's one of the most memorable, special things ever. So, you know, this Christmas, she's just getting a bunch of stuffed animals. I'm kidding. Okay. So that's the other thing. Gifts. All right. You have a kid that's constantly making you something, constantly. Okay. Like, don't let them see you throw it away. Okay. Don't let them see you put it on a, whatever, put it on, put it under a book or something. Like your kid goes through all this trouble. Right. And what they're doing is they are making for you the one sacrifice that they can make for you. This is, I'm making mommy, I'm making daddy a gift. Here it is. You know, it's so, so important for that personality to be able to exercise that particular love language and lift that up to you as a parent. And you can clue into that. And like me, if you didn't know, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm gonna be honest. I don't get it. But what I've had to learn, because somebody else's love language, it's not your own, will not. If you're like me, it won't make any sense to you. The gift love language thing makes no sense to me because in my mind, if it was about love language was about gifts, then they should be expensive gifts. I, Judge me or not, that's where my head goes. I have a hard time understanding how, like, you mean if I just like randomly surprise you and I randomly put thought into it and it cost me, you know, 19.99 to do it, you're thrilled? Apparently, okay? So it's the thought, it's all of that stuff that goes behind it that's also a factor. And so if you're like me and you're out there thinking, "Oh man, I think my spouse or my kids is gifts," and oh shoot, I don't have that kind of bank right now. It's not about that for those people. It's just not. Granted, do some nice stuff. Don't be cheap, okay? But I'm just saying, like, that shouldn't be a limiting factor, okay? What you got in the bank. It really shouldn't. Because for them, it's the thought and it's all this behind me. The fact that I just articulated that well, I hope my wife never watches this. I'm gonna be honest. Because it's only going to show that I actually was paying attention. Okay, we're moving on. All right. Finally, is time. Now, this is funny because uh, every time I try to write this in my notes to remember what the five love languages are, like in preparation for this podcast, and remember the video I just did, I always forget this one. I always have to pause, like, man, what is the fifth one? Is there even a fifth one? Did I just make it up in the video? And every time it's time. Why? This is the only conclusion I can come to. Time means that little to me. It is quality time. That's what it is, quality time. It is so low on my bar that every time I try to talk about this issue, I can barely remember that it's the fifth one. That's how low it is. Now, the irony is for my spouse, quality time and gifts. Man, right? And you're hearing the voice of someone right now where quality time and gifts are near the bottom. Okay. I want you to give me a hug and tell me I'm awesome. That's it, right? So I'm living that version that many of you may understand or relate to where your love languages are different than the other person. Okay. And it's all about communication and learning what that is. Time, quality time. If we sit and watch a show and are next to each other and we're both engaged in the show. Not the show is on and I'm on my phone, but I'm on the show, watching the show, reacting to the show. Show goes to commercial. I can't believe it, right? Show's over. Wow, what an episode, right? Quality time, like spending time. It, quality time, you can be shoulder to shoulder, taking something else in together, but that everything is shut off. For me, oh man, Koji's video, Dr. Koji Makai, when he talked about your phone. I mean, that is the beast. That is the enemy of quality time for me. And I don't know if you can relate to that. Just the phone aspect of what it can suck out of your day-to-day life. And I almost feel like many times our phones probably are the greatest enemy of a lot of these, but I think quality time people, the phone is the biggest issue. Quality time people want people to be present, want people to be at the dinner table and looking at each other and talking about their day, not posting about somebody else and their day. Okay. Quality time people want people engaged and in the moment. That's huge to them. And nothing seems to pull us out of the moment more than our phones. So if that's a person in your world that that quality time means the world to them, man, do we really need to make sure my wife does not see this podcast. All right. So, um, quality time. You may have kids that are that way too. It doesn't matter. They just want to be with you and do the thing with you. Be present with you. They'll already show it. Hey, where you going, Dad? Where you going, Mom? Can I go? Can I go? Can I go with you? They just want to follow you around. That's it. They have no in game. It's just be around. They want to be around you, doing whatever you're gonna do. You don't have to change your plans or anything. They just want to roll wherever you roll. So huge, huge stuff. Five love languages: touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, and quality time. And to figure that out with your spouse, you just got to ask, when does it when does it really hit? A lot of us have a top one and have like a 1B. You have kind of like your main one and then like a secondary one. Like I said, words of affirmation mean the world to me. Uh, touch means the world to me. My wife is, I would say, is hands down much more gifts and time. And I will say this, just to book in the idea of gifts too, because we also need to keep this in front of us. That person, just like touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, and time, they love to express that. So what that means is the touch person wants to also not, they don't want to just be hugged. They want to hug. The words of affirmation person doesn't want to just hear, I'm awesome. They want to be able to look at you and say, you're awesome. The acts of service person, right? They don't just want your help. They want to be able to help you. Okay. The gifts person, man, they love getting gifts. It goes right to their heart. But they love to give gifts. They love to watch you open something that they bought you or that they're giving you or some little thing that they thought through. That means the world to them. And then same thing with the time, folks. They don't just want quality time of you spending time with them. They want to spend quality time with you as well. And so it's a receiving and a giving type thing. Communication is critical. And being able to openly express where you're at on all of that. I'm gonna close up this time with some thoughts here, some stuff that's going on culturally, and also as we're now in Advent in the Christmas season. We got some hot topics and hot issues that are happening all over the world, but few and far between are outpacing our beloved United States of America. We got a lot going on in our country. And before I tie things in completely there, there's a lot of misconceptions about Christmas and the Advent season. A lot of it is because of a Western culture, the way that we look at things. And also, we try to fit everything into a church service. So, most people can come to all kinds of conclusions about the person of Jesus, the story of Mary and Joseph and Jesus, and that whole thing just based on their experiences in church, right? Because you got to get the children's choir and you got to get the handbell people, or you got to get your awesome praise band. And you got to, if you got the budget, we got to have a live nativity. I need camels and I need donkeys. I need horses. And well, who are we going to dress up like wise men? We need wise men. So before you know it, you have everybody, lit up candles sitting in your church singing Silent Night with animals running around, people dressed up like the wise men. You got Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, bunch of kids that they could find, right? And what's the conclusion you come to? Here's just one example from a Western culture. The conclusion you come to is the wise men showed up when Jesus was a little baby, right on cue for the choir, right? That's what you would think. And oh, the wise men showed up when they were in Bethlehem, right? And I would just kind of challenge you, you take another look at the text at hand. If you're to look at Luke chapter 2, I love this. In Luke chapter 2, says this in verse 39. When Joseph and Mary had done everything required by the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee, to their own town of Nazareth. Did you catch that? And everything the law that required, they circumcised Jesus after 8 days, and Mary's ritual purification would have been 40 days. And then they're leaving. They're gone. That's literally what Luke 2, verse 39 says. They're leaving. But most churches, if they even preach that at all, first of all, they're not going to preach it on Christmas Eve. It's not going to happen. So some of you are like, I didn't even know I was in there. Like others, we usually do talk about this the next Sunday. But we just did Silent Night with the wise men for Christmas Eve. So by the time you do this the next Sunday, most Christians take that Sunday off, right? They're like, hey, Jesus, I gave you extra worship and praise. I'm taking this Sunday off and sleeping in, right? So it's like the pastor, the praise band, or the organist, and like a few Navy SEALs for Jesus. That's all that's usually at that service. And so by the time you read that text, like no one's in the room anyways. Okay. So what I'm just saying is like, there's a lot that's going on with this story of Mary. And that's just one small example of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. That by the time they had this child in ritual purification right there, verse 39, they left Nazareth, which means where'd the wise men come from? It's likely the wise men came from as far away as Persia. And if they didn't meet them in Nazareth. They may have met them en route, but you have Jesus. This picture of Jesus is this cute little baby, right? He's in a manger, right? And we sing all our wonderful songs. He's just a little cute little baby in the manger, and then we picture in our heads the wise men showing up, and he's still a little baby. Well, he's probably 18 months to 2 years of age, and that doesn't look as cute. Jesus hanging out of the manger, arms and legs touching the ground, right? Like, just like, this is weird. What are we doing? So like, it's a whole different paradigm. And we don't often consider, like, just think about Jesus's family tree for a second. Think about this for a second. All right. Um, in his family tree, and I'll even back up. Matthew and Luke both have like a family lineage, right? And one is ascending and one is descending. Okay. Matthew is actually speaking from the royal line. Okay. That's how things are passed through the father. Luke is talking about the bloodline as things are passed through the mother. So whenever you read those two genealogies, a lot of critics will go, "Oh, look, these two guys, they couldn't get their story straight." No, they're working off of each other to paint a more beautiful picture, fullness of a picture. And it's amazing because in Jeremiah 22 verses 30, there's a curse that is put down on Jehoiachin, otherwise known as Jeconiah. Such a terrible king that God made it clear in this curse. And he references it in Jeremiah 22:30. There will be no one, no seed from this person that's going to sit on the throne of David. Right? So then what? Well, how'd that happen? Because God didn't break. He doesn't go back on his word. He makes a promise in your life. He doesn't break the promise. If there's a curse, he ain't breaking the curse. So what happened? Well, quite literally, Mary and Joseph, both generations and generations earlier, both come out of David, the house and line of David, the family of David. And the net result is literally Joseph is the adopted, like adopted, if you want to think of it in our terms, like adopted Jesus. He's the adopted son of Jesus. He's the son of the Heavenly Father. But legally, like, it would almost be like society would look at it like, oh, he's the adopted kid. And being the adopted kid, therefore, he has all the rights and privileges of that adopted kid. Okay. But he's full blood all the way through, the right to reign and rule through Mary, which is unbroken. So you see how God circumvented his own curse. He circumvents the curse for the promise to be secure. Okay. And if you look at that family tree, I mean, you have, I don't know if you know what this terminology is. Go ahead and Google it. But two harlots. There's one born out of incest. There's one adulterer. There's rape in the family tree. There is every kind of perversion and sickness, child sacrifice, kings that were wicked and evil and bad that signed off on terrible things. The family tree of Jesus is full of people whose names you don't put in your family picture and you don't put them above the fireplace on the mantle. You don't. Okay. Uncle Ned. All right. Or Aunt whatever that no one talks about. Like, they're not even in the picture. And we don't even talk about them. We all have crazy people, right? Scripture's different than your family and mine. Scripture actually lists their names, tells their story, and then lists it as part of the lineage of Jesus. And in it, you have every kind of perversion and sickness and horrific thing that's happened. Again, from incest, rape, murder, even King David, who'd be a high spot. He's a horrible dad. He's a terrible communicating father, which is incredible because the Psalms are beautiful. But man, that guy couldn't say a word, it didn't seem, to his own kids, right? So what does that all mean then, right? What does that all mean, that like there's that kind of perversion and brokenness? And I see what Lamar said, King David had a good friend, right? Amen. And he even killed his own buddy. So this is all in the house and the line and the lineage of David, okay? And here comes Jesus. And I want to just, in light of all of the discussions that are happening right now, I wrote this up and I'm going to post it here after the podcast, of just what's going on right now with our Supreme Court ruling. Pastors are speaking out on a lot of things. And one of the hardest things sometimes is to keep up with just crazy pace of all of the insane stories that are constantly flying at followers of Jesus and the church, to be able to keep pace with it. But if you're not in tune to what's going on, it's a pretty big deal right now with the Supreme Court trying to figure out the implications of their ruling. And it could be pretty substantial um, when we're talking about Roe v. Wade. And so I wanted to, I wrote this in light of Christmas, just a short little thing before I sign off and pray over you. Um, as the Supreme Court this week considers the challenge to abortion laws during the Christmas season, consider this: do we have the right to life or the right to kill? What about rape, incest, and poverty? What about murder? Christmas is not about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, gifts, cheesy Hallmark movies, trees, ornaments, and lights, terrible looking sweaters, or even, believe it or not, family. Christmas is about a promise passed through a family tree of rape, incest, murder, adultery, child sacrifice, and God mocking evil. It's about a promise being fulfilled in a family history that for every bright and hopeful spot was overshadowed, laden, and burdened with significantly more than was dark, broken, and flat out evil. It is about a promise that would culminate in a poor, single, teenage, unwed, and yes, pregnant mother. She is the poster child and candidate for the American abortion dialogue. This Christmas season, thank God for the faithfulness of Mary and take God at his word. As Mary took God at his word, she trusted him in overwhelming circumstances and walked in simple trust for her needs to be met and her future to be secure. Hashtag follow her lead. So, something to think about this Christmas season, that literally our story hinges on a single unwed teenage mother from a crazy family background. No prospects, no future. The one person she had in her life was looking to divorce her quietly. And she did the incredibly heroic thing. And she treasured these things in her heart. And man, I don't know about you. I'm so glad she did. So I hope and pray that as a country walk through this season, that we will follow the lead of the mother of Jesus. Let's pray. God, I just thank you so much for this time. We thank you for the opportunity to be able to communicate your word. And, each and every one of us, we have a way in which we want to love and a way in which we want to be loved. And we ask Jesus that you would open up the lines of communication in our marriages and friendships and with our children, that we would begin to express love in the ways that the people around us so deeply need. That's the beauty of how you wired us, to seek and search out the needs of others, to serve and sacrifice. It's in that way and in that disposition that we begin to look more and more like you and less like ourselves, that we would decrease, that you would increase. We love you so much, Jesus. Thank you for the beautiful gift. Thank you for the beautiful gift that you were and you are and you will ever be to this world and to each and every one of us. We love you, Jesus. It's in your name. Amen. Man, I love you guys. Hope to have Dr. Looney back real soon. Love that guy, and we'll hear from him real soon, no doubt. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Later.